Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I have your mics unmuted. If somebody could give me a shout out and let me know that your mics are working.
Shout out.
Great, thanks, Ed. Okay, well, we are getting close to time here. We still have some folks that got some feedback somewhere. Okay, it went away. So we still have some folks that are waiting to show up, but I'd like to go ahead and get started. Today we are covering the project plan end user training, and that equates to the detailed level project plan that you are all currently accustomed to. After your demand is created or approved, you are approved to move into procurement, and then you can begin work on your detailed project plan. We have Teresa Bednarek here. She will be conducting today's training. Because there are a lot of folks with us, please raise your hand or drop your question in the chat and we'll be watching it. And I will be sending out this slide deck as well as the meeting recording once we get it downloaded and linked up. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Okay, awesome. Take it away, Teresa.
Thank you so much, Daniela, and good afternoon, state of Kansas. And we are going to leap right into project management. Can everyone see my screen? I'm showing a slide deck.
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Let me go into presentation mode. Well, Sally, before I do that, you'll be left with this slide deck as Daniela has mentioned, and so I won't be going through the entire slide deck, but it is here as a reference and a guide for you if you have any questions. So let me just get started. Okay. My name's Teresa Bednarek from CASC, and I'm here to talk through and show you ServiceNow, introduce ServiceNow to you if it's a new application for you, as we're going to go through the project management process here. And so for all of you, you all are project managers who will be using ServiceNow to follow your KITO reportable IT projects. This is our agenda for today. For those of you who might be new to ServiceNow, there's a little bit of basic navigation we want to introduce you to. We are going to go end to end through the project management process in your test instance. I'm sure Danielle has provided all of you a test login. So if you want to log in, and as we're going through the demo and you'd like to follow along and create your own projects, from the approved demands and follow this along on your own, please do so. And by the end of this session, these knowledge outcomes is to help you be very comfortable with navigating through the project form, other areas that pertain to project management in ServiceNow, completing those compliance requirements, getting those approvals, working with your stakeholders, establishing what those project tasks are and following them through to completion, and a little bit about how to create your status reports. How this is going to impact you is, as all of you know, the state of Kansas has enacted some legislation that went into effect this month. And so this workflow is designed for you, for your organization, to follow through these high value IT projects. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these slides since we're going to show them in the instance, but we want to introduce basic navigation. Here, this is the application navigator. We're going to cover how you can create favorites and using the history feature. This is called a list view. So once you enter in projects in the navigator in the search area, you'll get to this list view, and this is a common view that you'll find in all parts of ServiceNow. This is your project list view. And here we're going to review how to use some of this functionality on the left-hand side, the context menu, the filter, and how to personalize this view for yourself. This is a ServiceNow form. This is your project form, and this is very common in ServiceNow. The project form has lots of information, so we have tabs here in the middle. We have user interface buttons in the upper right, related links that's going to take you to other parts of the ServiceNow platform that are related to project management. And then finally, we have what's called related lists, which are data tables that some are going to look familiar to you because we use them in the demand management process. And that information has been brought over from demand when it becomes an approved demand and is created into a project. This is a little bit more about how to create that favorite by using breadcrumbs. This is what this is called in ServiceNow lingo. And this is the filter that was created. So we will do one of these in our demo. And we're also going to show you how you can use this funnel to create some conditions so that you can change your list view and you can search for specific information. ServiceNow has a lot of notifications. And so rather than creating a folder for you to automatically dump all your ServiceNow notifications, you might want to control what you receive and not receive from ServiceNow. So we will go over that, but very quickly, there's a gear in the upper right where your login name or where your test login name is. And when you click on that gear, you're going to see this system settings, and under notification preferences, you'll see notifications that are within your ServiceNow platform with the role that you are going to be using as a project manager. And you can search for the notifications you want and turn them on or off with this slider. Going to show you how to personalize your list view, and you can make favorites if you wish, or if you just want to look for certain information, we're going to show you how to use this gear over here. ServiceNow has these user interface buttons. The save means that you're saving the information that you've entered on the record, and you're going to stay on that record so that you can continue to do your work. The update button means that you have entered information in your record and you are fine with closing it and going on to do something else. Insert and stay, it's basically a copy feature. So just if you kind of look at insert and stay and to say copy, I'm going to copy the record that I was on and I'm going to edit a new one. So that's what this allows you to do. You're going to create this copy of the record that you have. It's going to You're not going to lose any information from that record that you're copying from, and then you can modify the fields that you wish, and you can save a second unique copy of the same type of record. Some project management overview. Over on the left, this is where we started with your service portal, with your IT demand intake. And once we brought that over from your service portal, we are working within the ServiceNow platform in demand management. And once this demand becomes an approved demand, it automatically becomes a project. And this is where we're going to focus today. This is the workflow for project management for your organization from these different phases, from initiating to closing. We're going to especially focus on the planning phase because there's a lot of requirements and here, and this is where you're going to create this work plan for your project. Okay. And here's our process objectives to identify those process requirements that you need to have this project be a successful implementation and while you're taking this project through its paces, through these different phases, addressing those stakeholder needs, uh, having this collaborative communication that you'll see through ServiceNow through the use of email notifications and how you can manage expectations, satisfaction, and so on. And then also being able to monitor your budget, your schedule, your scope, and so on. And in ServiceNow, as I've mentioned, when those demands become approved by your CITO, they automatically become a project. And any financial information from your approved demand, requirements, and RIDX are risks, issues, decisions, action items, and request changes. These, if they exist on your approved demand, will be brought over to your project. These are the two roles that are going to allow you to do your work in ServiceNow. All of you as project managers have this role so that you can successfully manage that approved demand that has become a project and do many different functions as we're going to go through today. And for this project user role is assigned to those people who are not in a project manager role, and they are given a task to complete for the completion of your project. Okay, so we're going to jump out of this particular presentation, and I'm going to swipe over to ServiceNow. So if you are logged in, you might see a homepage like this, like that. So we talked a little bit about navigating. This is called the filter navigator. This is your application navigator. There's 3 different columns here. This file icon will expose any applications in ServiceNow that you're using in your organization that you have a role to. The starred column houses your favorites. And this is the history functionality that allows you to easily go back to recent records that you have viewed or worked on. So if you want to find projects, you want to navigate to this filter navigator at the top and start typing projects. And what will happen is you're going to see projects, and it's going to bring up your project application. If you've already created any favorites, you'll see that at the top. But if you haven't, you want to navigate to project, projects all. And for me, I've already favorited this. So there's a star. So if you want to favorite this entire section, you can click on this here, and you can see all of this area has been favorited. So if I click here, I'm going to see it. And if I want to go back and remove it, I can. So for example, so if I go to all my projects, so let's just do that again, projects, and just take that away. And I just want this one. This is the list view. So once you click on all, this is that project list view that we mentioned earlier. And from left to right, these are all fields on the project form in ServiceNow. This is that context menu. When you click on it, this is how you can create a favorite. If you click here, you can edit the name of your favorite. You can choose colors or any type of icon that's available here. Click done, and it will appear under your favorites area. This is our filter. And this filter, when you click on it, it exposes this filter, this condition, so that you can choose different fields. And so let's choose something here. So if you wanted to make a view for your department, notice there's two agency fields. So for your agency, you'll want to choose the agency department. And depending on what you choose in this first column will determine what is available in the second choice. So I want to create some conditions for a specific department. So I want to keep it as is. And then when I click on this magnifying lookup, and in this search area at the top, I'm going to type OITS, click return. And what that did for me is it shows all of the OITS departments. And if I choose the top level, I have established my first condition. If I want to make a second condition, and let's say I want to look for, and what I did is I was typing KITO in the search field and it found the field that I wanted. And again, we have some choices here, and I want to have KITO reportable projects showing for the OITS agency. I've completed this filter. There's a run button here. And in different parts of ServiceNow, whenever you have this type of filter functionality, you can click on the run, and you can see that my list view is updated from many records to these 5 records. This is that breadcrumbs that I had mentioned earlier. So there's 2 ways that you can create a favorite. One is I could create my favorite from here, or I can click on my left side of my mouse and grab this KITO reportable is true, and I can pull it over to the application navigator. And you can see here, it's created this favorite that's here under my favorites. So if I want to edit this, there is a pencil. I cannot see that. Let me get rid of that. So I want to edit my favorites. So there's a pencil. So where I was over here, so I didn't see the pencil. So you want to click on the star. And there's a pencil at the bottom. When you click on it, you can just click on any of these that you want. So we just created this one. I'm going to click on it. I can change this to be OITS KITO reportable projects. And I can choose the color. And maybe I want to use this label right here. Click done. And now this is my new favorite that I've just created. And if you want to remove it, just hover over this minus sign when you're under your favorites area and it will remove it for you. Okay, before I forget, over here in the upper right, this is your login name. And this is that gear, which is a settings gear. When you click on this gear, this is the system settings. So to navigate to your notification preferences, click here to notification preferences. This is going to have all the notifications that you have in your particular ServiceNow platform. And it's going to have all of them. So if I want to search for project notifications, I'm going to just start typing. And what that did for me is it's just automatically updated this filter. And if I wanted to enable or disable this email, so all of your notifications are going to be enabled, which is indicated by this slider like so. If I want to turn it off, you click on that slider. The left portion will move to the left. And if you want to turn it back on, this is going to turn green to the left, and the white part of the slider is going to move to the right. This returns me back to all of my notifications. This is the gear that allows you to personalize your columns here on your list view. There's not a search area, but if you want to start typing, so what I started doing is I just started typing KITO and I see that I have the KITO reportable, field here. There's two ways to move it over to the right. You can click on the add arrow here, or you can double click and move it from left to right. It'll move it to the bottom. So notice that the number field is at the top and your number field is to the far left. So now you can arrange these particular fields to your liking. So if I want to move the KITO reportable field up, and let's say I don't need my portfolio field, so I'm going to move it to the left. So these two arrows will allow you to move your selected fields here so that this is going to be on the left, this is going to be on the right, and move them back and forth. When you're finished, click OK, and then your view is going to update. And here's my KITO reportable field here that I added, and the portfolio field is removed. Another way to filter in ServiceNow, you'll notice that I have these search fields that are underneath each of these field columns. When you click on this magnifying glass that's next to your gear, it will either hide, it'll collapse this view, or it will expand it. So if you're in this view, and for example, if I wanted to see what projects Daniela had assigned to her, so what I'm going to do is put a wildcard. So when you type an asterisk in any search field in ServiceNow, it's going to look for that word or numbers that you put in there. So I did an asterisk, put Daniela's first name. I'm going to hit the return. And so now, notice here in the breadcrumbs, it's saying project manager name contains Daniela. So that would be another way that you could, if I click on this, it's going to show this particular filter, which I did from here, but you also can see it from here. If you want to remove this condition, if you click on this arrow, it says remove next condition. So if I do that, it's going to return me to this view. So whenever if you have multiple conditions, every time you click on the arrow, it's going to remove that set of conditions. If you want to have this filter visible all the time, you can click it on this pin, and this pin will, so if I move away from this view, it's going to, whatever view I go to, it's going to have this filter. If I don't want it, I just have to click on the pin and it will be removed. So let me just clear, and it's gone. So run is, once you set those conditions, it'll update your list view. Save allows you to save whatever this view is, and or are part of the conditions that you can set so you can run your filter. An add sort means that, and you can do it this way too, is let's say you wanted to alphabetize something. So here you can, I clicked on these three little lines, so this kind of context menu, and you can either sort from A to Z or from Z to A, and that's the same functionality as the add sort gives you here. So if I wanted to do that, I can go like so, and it's going to alphabetize my projects, or I can do it in the opposite way. Okay, and if I want to go back to the view I had before, it'll just go like so, or maybe go to A to Z here. Okay. So that is some basic ServiceNow navigation. Any questions on anything that I've shown you so far? Don't see anything in the chat. So we're just going to keep moving. So we have our approved demand. You have a project. So we're going to navigate to our favorites, and we've favorited all projects. And this is my project that I'm going to use for our demonstration. It's my University of Kansas initiative. So once your approved demand becomes a project, it will be in the initiating phase. If you have not populated the project manager field, which is shown as a required field, so again, a reminder, anytime you see a red asterisk in ServiceNow, that means that that is a required field that is not populated. So it's flagging this particular field to ask us to go ahead and fill out the field. So I'm going to look for me. So what I did is I typed my name up here. I could also type my name underneath this field. So now we've fulfilled this. If in your demand that you had already filled in your project manager field and that project manager is assigned to a different project and you need to update this field, even though it's required, it's not read-only, so you can go ahead and update this field. In this initiating state, you can also see that there's information that has been brought over from your approved demand, the compliance acknowledgement and the KITO review, because this is a KITO reportable project. The cost plans associated with this is also here.
Hey, Teresa.
Yes.
Quick question in the chat. Do you know why the asterisks would not be appearing red in the testing environment, in the training environment?
They should. They will turn from red to black if they are populated. So for Anita, in the environment that you're logged into, are you saying that you'll have a empty field and it's not colored as red?
No, you're correct. It has something in it. I was using an existing one and they were all filled out, so that's why they would all be black according to your.
So if we look at this, Anita, if I were to remove my name, and then this is going to turn red. So the red is flagging us to populate that field. If it already has something in it, it's just letting us know that, for example, our initiative name is required, but we have that field populated. And so what we want to do here is go ahead and populate, and it's going to turn from red to black. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, Anita? Are you good?
Good.
Excellent. Perfect. Okay. Other records that were brought over from your approved demand, if there was any monetary or non-monetary benefit plans, remember in demand, you needed to have at least one of these types or more. The funding sources were brought over. The stakeholders associated with your approved demand were brought over to the project. And when that approved demand became a project, the first baseline was automatically created when it was converted from demand to project, and that's found here. When we're ready to start planning the project, go to the upper right and click on the planning button. Now we're in our planning phase. You have a blue banner here that gives you a checklist of things that need to be done. The one thing that is not up here is making sure that you create your project tasks, which is done one of two ways. You have a project task related list, and also you can create your tasks from the planning console. So let's demonstrate project tasks from your related list. So I'm going to click on the new button. and I have a initiate phase of my project. And when you're creating these, it's going to, this time constraint here, this is going to default to start ASAP. And this is going to have the same planned start date as the start of your project. If you need to have something start on a specific date, you can use the drop down here, for example, and now I can edit this field. So let me show you that again. And I'll show you this on the planning console, which is where we would prefer you to create your planning tasks. So it's going to default to start ASAP. This is read only, I can't change it. And maybe that's okay because this is the beginning of my project. But if I want to start on a specific date, now I can go to this calendar field and I can choose a date and click OK. But for now, starting ASAP is okay. So I'm going to save the project task. And once I do that, I have some tabs here in the middle. I can show this as a milestone either here on this task or on the planning console. I'll show you how to do that. Here are the dates associated with your task. So here, if you can show the duration. So for this initiate phase, maybe it's 5 days. So you can update it here, or we'll be able to update this on the planning console. Let me save my record. And let's say you wanted to create a nested task under this one. So notice that there is a project tasks related list, even though I'm already on a project task record. So if I click new and I create a nested task, and I'm going to make this a 2-day task. I'm going to save it. And at the top of my parent project task form, I can see that this is the name of my project. This is the name of the parent project task. And then this is the nested task name. And that's how you can see that. And we'll be able to see this on the planning console. Now you can either click on these links here to take you back to either the parent project task. You can also click on this back arrow, or you can click here to return to the project record. There's also on a related link that says return to the top task, which would be your project record. And here we are back to our project. So under the related links, which is in the middle part of your screen, there is a planning console link. So if you're following along, click on your planning console link. And notice at the top here, we have some different tabs, and we're on the planning tab. If I go back to the details, that takes me back to my record right here. If I want to return to the planning tab, I just have to click right here on this tab. And there I am. And then another area that we're going to talk about is the status reports, which is this tab, a little bit later. So now we want to create our tasks for our project. So these are the two project tasks that we've already created. So the name of our project, phases, and the nested tasks. This gear on the far left, this allows you to show different fields in these columns. So for example, if I wanted to remove the status, I click on that and it's gone. I can adjust my columns. I'm grabbing them with my mouse and I'm just moving them in the same way that you could adjust the columns in an Excel document. If I want to add it back, I can. There is a line and it might be on the far left-hand side over here. It might be right over this line. And what this does is this will expose this list view of these fields that are listed here. This, of course, is your Gantt chart view of your project. So it's possible to see both if you want, or if you want to just see the Gantt chart in an expanded view, go ahead and do that. And as you move this line, you can see it kind of changes color for us. Okay. So let's say we wanted to make more project tasks. So we see what we have here. This plus sign is a way to add a task. So right now, this one is selected, this initiate phase task. If I click on that task, it's going to create another task that's at the same level as the initiate. So let's say that this is a planning phase of our project, and we want to create another project beneath it. And this is actually going to be a child task. So when I select this field, you'll notice you have some extra action buttons at the top. So now I want to indent this particular task. So now this is a nested task under the planning phase. If you want to unindent and make it a standalone task, you just click on the arrow. If I want to move this task up, I can put it right here. Right. Another way that you can create new tasks is there's an add task above or add task below, right here. And you can see here that all of these tasks that I've started creating are showing as start ASAP. So for example, perhaps for this nested task, we want this to start on a particular date. So what I did is, in the same way that I showed you on the project task field, I have my mouse over start ASAP and I double clicked on it, and I see I have these choices. So if I want to start on a specific date, it's not going to let me. So I wonder why. So it should allow me to do this. Okay, so let me do it for that one, and for this one, and for this one. And so what I want to show you is, for example, if these tasks are going to start later.
Hey, Teresa.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a quick question in the chat.
Did you already cover this? Does ServiceNow allow you to import from Excel or XML? Do you want to import your project tasks here, Ed? Is that your question? Go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I should have been more clear. Can you
import? No, you're fine. So that's a really good
import
question.
project schedules from Excel files or XML files? That's the question.
Not so much, not for project. Now, one thing that ServiceNow does have functionality for, but I don't believe you're going to use it. Let's say you're already using Microsoft Project, and you can import from Microsoft Project into this planning console. This would have to be set up. This is not a functionality that KARS has developed for you, but this could be something moving forward. But let me just double check with that question, Ed, just to make sure that I'm not telling you something that's incorrect. But I don't believe that you can take an Excel spreadsheet of your project tasks and import it here.
Yeah, and so it's a two-part. If not Excel, then our PPM system that we use allows us to export to project, what it calls MS Project XML format. So hopefully that's standard, and ServiceNow can ingest that, but just a question.
Sure. Well, as far as I'm aware, this is the only import that I'm familiar with. But let me check. Let's see, Excel import of project tasks. So the question is from either Excel or from the XML of your other project management tool. Is that correct?
Correct. And it specifically says, it calls it MS Project XML. So I'm assuming that's a Microsoft proprietary. Well, I won't say that
Yes.
that way.
I think
Yeah.
it would be the same functionality as right here under this. This is a more actions icon, these 3 dots, and this import feature right here. So let me take that back. If it's MS Project in some sort of way, I'm sure you could, if this functionality was developed for your platform. I don't believe it is, and again, CASC did not work on this portion of your planning console. But Danielle, I'll get back to you on this one. Okay. Thank you for that question, Ed.
Oh, thank you.
No, that's good. I like it when you all are engaged. So what we're doing here is we want to adjust some of these dates. So let's say for this particular task, we want to move it out to here. And it's going to be, let's see, this is the 23rd of October, and we're going to have it go here. So when I do that, notice that this expands this particular field, and this task was reflective of what I entered here. Some other ways that you can move your tasks around is what I'm doing is I'm taking this task that's now on a start on a specific date, and I'm dragging it. And so as I drag it, it's going to be updating these fields here. Okay. And depending on how these projects are, this is just another way for you to adjust your project plan. So you can either update the fields here, or you can drag them here. If it's start ASAP, of course, there's some constraints there. Let me just drag this over a little bit more and make these fields a little bit skinnier. It's also possible to assign these tasks to people from the planning console. So you could create your project plan here, and then you could say, oops, and now it's prompting me, I want to make a change. So I can either save here, or I want to show you this little save icon. So you want to click on that, and whatever you're working on here on the planning console is saved. And so this is a nice time saver because it allows you to create that project plan as it goes probably from left to right, from the upper left to the lower right as you progress through your project. And if I wanted to assign this to the agency PM user role, I can do that. And all I did was I double clicked. It will expose all the users. And let's see, if I want to put end user training 5 in there, I can put it there. If you want to change that user, you can search. So if I wanted to assign something to Daniela, I just started typing her name. There she is, and I can assign her this particular task. If you want to see the actual start dates and end dates, these are all controlled from this area here. And if you don't want to see them, you can click them away. Let's see right here, the actuals. But you get the idea. This is how you can adjust your columns you can't view. Any questions while we're on the planning console? Because this is super important so that you feel comfortable in creating these tasks by either clicking on your add task below or using these this functionality at the top to add tasks above or below the task that you've selected, and you can move them up and down, left and right. And what this shows, this is a critical path. So as you continue and move through your project, it just shows you these are the areas that need to be completed for your project. Okay. So this is how we're going to create our tasks. I've saved my work. I'm going to go back up to my details tab at the top. And when I return to my project, I have my blue banner that's asking me to complete these items. So one of the first things it's mentioning is a project risk assessment. Since I've assigned this one to myself, I should be able to get to that. And that is just like in demand management. I want to navigate to this assessment instances related list. And there I see my project risk assessment. If you plan to access your assessment this way, click on the number rather than the name of the assessment. If you click on the number, there's a Take Assessment button here that's going to navigate you to the assessment, like so. Or you can type assessment in your search, and I've already favorited this, but we want to self-service my assessments and surveys. Now, if you noticed here, I have business risk screenings, which are from demand, and I also have project risk assessments. So it's important for you to know what your project number is or your demand number is, so that if you have multiple screenings or assessments to complete, that you're taking the correct one. So I'm going to navigate back to my project record, and I'm going to use the history feature here. That's this button to the far right. And I'm going to return to my project this way. And I'm going to choose, and this is whatever you're comfortable with, I'm going to choose to take my assessment from here. Click on this button. And I'm sure I'm going to answer these questions that are not appropriate for this particular project that I've chosen, but you go through and answer each of your questions. You can add comments to your assessment as appropriate. And I'm certain you're going to do this with a lot more care than what I'm doing right now. And again, notice that they are red and they're turning black as I answer these, and I'm clicking through here, and I didn't realize that I actually had missed one. And I'm going through my assessment and I'm answering all my questions. And I'm close to the bottom. I'm going to submit. So ServiceNow is going to prompt me to come back to, if I have one or more questions that I may have missed, I'm going to come here, answer the question, navigate to the submit button, and go ahead and submit my assessment. And once I've done that, you get an overall project risk score. You have some individual scores for each of the risk areas, and a validation that you have completed your assessment. Similar to demand management, there is a link here, and if I click on this link to return to the project record, it will open a new browser tab. So I came from here and it launched another tab for me. Or I can use my history feature and I can return on this tab back to my project record. Now, once I've completed my assessment, notice that the blue banner has updated and it's removed that requirement. So now I can move on with the next one. It's asking for at least one associated risk record. I can do that here on the related lists, and there's a risks related list. I create a new risk. And I have my description, and I'm going to save my record. And you'll notice that there is a show on project status report field that is checked as true. This means that this record will show on the status reports that you'll be generating as a project manager throughout the life of your project. So don't uncheck this box, please. If you need to make another risk, let's demonstrate the insert and stay functionality. So up to now, I've been either saving my record and staying, or I've been updating and closing this record and moving back to a previous view. So if I want to create a K implementation risk 2, and maybe have some text for the mitigation plan, and I come up to my insert and stay. So this is a copy feature, and there's a little help text in black when I hover over this button. So I'm going to click on insert and stay. I have a new risk record. So now what I'm going to do is update, close this record. I'm going to navigate to my risks related list, and I see that I have the 2 risks that I've created for my project. Once I've done that, the risk requirement in the blue banner is gone. Let's move on to the compliance tasks. It says 6 compliance requirements. Requirements is the key word for us because that means that we want to move down to this requirements related list. We see here that we have the 2 requirements from the approved demand, the compliance acknowledgement and the KITO review on the demand is already here. We have our 6 compliance requirements here, and we also have a requirements document for our executive authority to approve our project once these compliance requirements have been accepted and approved. So as a project manager, these will default to you, but if the assignee is someone different and they're in ServiceNow, you can assign this requirement record to them. Or as the project manager, you can coordinate with them as far as the completion of this particular item. So this is your ACR. And if I click to add, it's asking me to come over here first to answer this question on compliance. And so it's a yes or no. And once I have fulfilled this field, I can go ahead and click. And in the same way that you've done before in ServiceNow, you can choose your file. I'm going to choose my test document. And I can see it right here. Clicking on the OK button. And now I see my document has been attached right here. Okay. My blue banner on this record is asking me to change the state field, which is here in the upper right, to accepted. If for some reason you click on approved rather than accepted for the state, then it's not going to, ServiceNow is not going to recognize that this record is ready for KITO review. So we're going to go ahead and put it in as accepted. And as the project manager, if you're working through all of these records at the same time, you set aside time in your calendar to work on this project. I've saved the record and I can use these up and down arrows to move to the next record rather than closing the one I was working on and opening up the next one. So I'm going to answer all these questions, update my state to accepted, save, click on the down arrow, move to the next compliance requirement. And as you can see here, this particular form has more fields that are not mandatory, but if your project requires it, then please make sure that you fill out these fields. And as I'm saving these records, you can see that once I have changed my state to accepted, the approval field here went from not requested to requested. So as soon as I've done that, KITO will get a notification informing them that this particular record is awaiting their review and approval. So let's watch that when we go on and do this next one. So right here, the state is pending and the approval is not yet requested. I'm going to answer the questions. I'm going to update my state to accepted. Click Save button. And now this changes to requested. I have a couple more to do. So we're going to answer all these questions and update the state to accepted, save, and move to the next record. This is the last one. So I'm going to put an appropriate statement here. Change my state, save my record. So now if I update, I'm going to close this record. And when I look at my banner, it's still letting me know that all of these requirements need to be accepted and then approved. So if I move here under the requirements related list, I can see here all of these have been accepted. And now we also see this approval column where these are all requested. And once KITO goes into each of these, this will update. But we're not there yet. Our blue banner is asking us to enter some execution start and end dates. That's done here on our dates tab, which is your first tab on your project record. Here's our execution start date and end date. Perhaps in this point of your planning, there's no changes based on what you know from the project start date that you've entered here above. So I'm going to click on the calendar and enter that particular date. And the same is true for my execution end date, as far as I know. So this looks like, these are two different dates. Okay, well, let's just pick right here. So I fulfilled this. Now if I save, now watch your blue banner, I save. And now the execution start and end date requirement has disappeared. It's asking for the agency executive authority approval on the requirements document. So again, we go down to your requirements related list. Here's that record. As the project manager, open that record up. If there's any notes and things that you need to share with your executive authority, of course, you can enter them in the work notes. There's a request agency approval button that you can click on when you know that your executive authority office is ready to receive and review your project. So notice that the approval is not yet requested. So once I do that, I click on the request EA approval, the approval field updates to requested. And another thing that you can do when you're in the test environment is to help reload your record. I'm in the header here. I'm doing a right click with my mouse, and I'm going to reload the form. And that helps me to see that on the approvers related list that's now on this requirement record that Mr. Alex Wong is just received the notification to please review this project. Now, if your executive authority rejects, so in ServiceNow lingo, there's these states for approval of either accepting or rejecting. Of course, this is not the vocabulary you use in your organization, but this is ServiceNow language. So your executive authority can either reject and say, I really need a little bit more information, come talk to me, something, and then as the project manager, you're going to receive an email with those comments so that you can respond back to your executive authority. If they don't have any questions, you've talked to them about your project, perhaps in a recent steering group meeting or something, they're saying, yep, I know about this project and I'm fine with it. And your executive authority approves your project. See that it's approved here. And I'm going to reload the form. And so now everything is approved. So I'm updating to close this requirement record, returning to the project record. The EA requirement is done. So now the blue banner says this project is ready for KITO review. So remember, each time you completed one of these compliance requirements, there's a notification that's sent to the KITO staff informing them that that portion of your project is ready for review. So what they will do is they're going to come into your project record, and on this approvers tab, we now have the approvers listed from KITO that will be reviewing. So I have admin privileges, so I'm kind of cheating here. So we're going to say that Cole is going to review all of your compliance requirements. If there's no questions from the KITO office, they're going to approve each of these. And once that's done, any other people who are listed do not need to approve. And so Cole is probably going to work through as many of these that are assigned that he can be an approver on. And if he rejects this particular requirement, there'll be some comments. So for example, let me just go ahead and open this approval record. And if there is, the state is updated to rejected, the comments field here becomes required, and there'll be some text in the comments that you'll receive as a project manager so that you can have that conversation with the KITO staff. So I'm going to update our record and come back here to the requirement and work our way through all of these particular requirements. Is there any questions while I'm clicking through all these requirements? Okay. So once KITO has reviewed and has approved all of your compliance requirements for your project, that's going to trigger your CITO approval. I think I have done them all. Let's double check. Go down here. So I can see on my requirements related list, they're all approved. But now I was wrong. Now that CITO has looked at all of these compliance requirements, they have their overall project review to complete. So a requirements record has been generated for that. Since Cole went ahead and did all of this review, it's likely that he's going to open up this one, assign it to himself, and if there's not any questions, the state field will be updated to accepted. And if it's approved, it's not going to trigger that CITO review. So being in the accepted state is very important. And so once I complete that as the KITO office, we get an updated message. So as a project manager, perhaps you're doing your ServiceNow work, you go back and you say, oh, the KITO office has worked on my project record, and you've also received a notification about this, and you can see this blue banner tells you that your CITO is now has received a notification and is going to be reviewing and with the intent of approving your particular project. So it's not here on the requirements tab. We want to navigate to the approvers tab. And we see Mr. Jeff Maxon is here. Now let's say that your CITO rejects and has questions on your project. What's going to happen then is an additional KITO review requirement document is going to be created here on the requirements related list, and that would generate another review. And so that's going to indicate that there could be a CITO reject state here. Another requirement document is generated here. And once KITO reviews the information that you provide with the CITO, we have those conversations, and KITO approves. Another approval record would be sent to the CITO for them to review and approve your project. So we're going to update our record here. And so now when and that happened very quickly, but what ended up happening is we were in the planning phase, and once the CITO approves your project, you're automatically moved into the execution phase, and your execution date, whatever you had entered before, it gets updated here on your dates tab right here. So in this phase, perhaps you're going to go back to your planning console. You're going to monitor these tasks that are being assigned to different people, and you're going to be updating your tasks. The other thing that you'll be doing is you're going to be submitting your status reports. So since I had these tabs visible, I just went ahead and clicked on status report. But let's say you don't see this. So there's two ways for you to start creating your status report for your project. One way is under related links. There is a status report link right here. And under your related list, there is also a status report. Where's my status report? It's right here, related list. And there's a new button here. So you can either click on the new button, and I'm going to choose to click on the status report link, and it's going to take me back to this tab. The other thing I want to mention to you is, as project managers, you're going to have multiple projects. And so this search feature up here next to this home button allows you to drop down, and you can easily change while you're in this view to any projects that either are assigned to you or that maybe are in your department that you have access to, that you've recently seen. But you can also use this little down arrow right here. Okay. So we're under status report. There's a create new button. When you open up this record, there's going to be pre-populated fields based on the information that's on your project record. The status state, we're going to have another training session that's going to get deep dive into reporting. But for the purposes of this training for project management, this status report date is pre-populated to the day that you actually open the record, as you see here. You can change the state if you like, but this default date. And so we're going to talk about this more later, but likely what you want to do for your quarterly reporting, you want to create your report as close to the end of the quarter as you can. The overall health on each of these tabs is based on the information that's entered underneath each tab. Overall status, of course, reflects the overall status of your project from the project record. So if you want to bring in some text here and can enter in some text here. Now, under the schedule, cost, resources, and scope tabs, these are custom fields that were developed for your organization. So although the planned start date field is here, you'll notice it's not pre-populated here. So as a project manager, expectation is for you to go ahead and fill out these fields. So if the actual planned start date was, or this is the planned end date, which is right here. So if none of these are changed, then you can go ahead and fill this out. So let me see, right here, for example. And for the project length in days, what you can do from here is, let me go back to my record here. You have a dates field on your project record, and there's a duration field, and there is your duration listed here. So you can go back to your project field, project record under dates, duration, and you could enter that into this field here. For example, this field is for business days, but it does not reflect any holidays. So if you need to account for holidays, just keep that in mind. If there's any comments, you can add them here. This is your actual execution cost to date, planned execution costs here. So perhaps you've spent 10,000 of your budget so far, and your planned execution is going to be, again, back here on your financials tab, there's going to be your estimated planned costs and so on that are here on this record. And so you can enter that here. Actual work hours and your variance. So if it's 50 and it's 25, for example, you can put those in there. And you have your actual execution deliverables completed and your planned execution deliverables completed. So you could add some numbers in here and save and submit is the same. So if you've completed your report, you can submit it, and what you're going to see is your report. Any text here that you've entered, some cost plans, your actuals versus your planned costs. Those risk scores are right here, very handy. You have your current status, and as you create additional status reports based on the length of your project, you'll see more of your status history in this area here. Remember, we created some risks here. So if we had these particular risks, once they're pending, they're here, and then it's very hard to see, but there's completed and then pending right here. And that's why we're asking you not to uncheck that box, because otherwise it's not going to show. And that the same goes for any kind of issues, decisions, so on. Okay. If you have to recast your project for any reason, that's a request change, and we're going to cover that next, but that would also be reflected here. If under our planning console we had any key milestones, you'll see them here. Let's say you want to share your status report. Over here to the far right, there's a print icon. You can either print or save it as a PDF right here. And let me just show you that is your status report. So now you're done. So let's say you wanted to go back here. Let me make sure I reload my form. And on my status reports related list, I see that I've created my first status report. And of course, when I go back here, you'll see that there's multiple status reports here. You'll see them listed here. Let me just go back to the planning console for just a quick second. If for some reason you wanted to create any of these tasks as a milestone, I'm going to this is the task label, and I've right-clicked, and you can either add child tasks or you can convert it to a milestone. And so now I've converted this task into a milestone, and this changes how it's shown on the planning console. And so if I would need to move this milestone here, I just took it with my mouse, my left mouse, and I just dragged it over. Okay. All right, and I'm going to save my changes. Any questions on status reports? The next part we're going to cover is recast requests. Okay, don't see any questions. So for some reason, your project might be running a little bit long on schedule, or it's costing more than what you had planned. In that case, we need to submit a recast request. Before you submit your recast request, we want you to create a baseline of where your project is right now. There's two ways to do that from your project record. Go to the related links, and there's a create baseline link here. And also on your related list, we have a baseline related list right here next to status reports, and you can create a baseline here. I'm going to choose to create a baseline from the related links. In both cases, you're going to get this window that pops up. And what's very important is whatever you choose to call your baseline, the baseline and your request change record must have the same name. So I'm going to copy that so I don't forget. And it's going to create a schedule and financial baseline. So these two boxes are checked. So please keep those two boxes checked. So I'm going, and so what it says here is that this schedule baseline is a snapshot of each task's current planned start and end dates, and the financial baseline is a snapshot of the project's current financial plans, which include cost and benefit plans, but not the actuals. So once I save that, I get a message that I've created this baseline. And when I go down to my related list, and if I had put something in the description, I'd see it, but I've just created this one right here. So I have my baseline. And if I go to the planning console and I move to this more actions, which is to the far upper right of your screen, this is where our baselines can be viewed. If I click on the down arrow, I see that I have my KU recast request here. And it's very hard to see. So if you're in your test instance, if you've created a baseline with me, you'll see that there's a little gray line that's underneath each of these areas, marking that this is the snapshot that you've just taken. Okay. So let's go back to our record, and we have to create our recast request. So we're going to introduce a new record, a new related list. We're going to go to the related list here and move over to the request changes related list and open a new record. Since I copied the name of my recast baseline, I'm going to put the same one here. And this is going to help for quarterly reporting for your KITO staff so that the query is matching your recast requests to your baseline. If there's additional text here, please add it in here. Like you might say, project, timeline is much longer than planned due to vendor availability, perhaps. And under category, so I'm on the left-hand side of my form. When I click on the down arrow, it's defaulted to resource, but there is a recast choice. And when I click on that choice, watch what happens to the right-hand side of the form. When the category is updated to recast, I now have additional fields that show KITO acceptance and CITO approval of my request. And it's showing that the parent is this project, my project number, right here, okay? So I'm going to save my record. And once I save my request change for my recast request, now there is an approval button so that I can request approval of this recast when I'm ready. Once I request approval, so watch these fields here, the KITO office is going to receive a notification that you are submitting a request to recast your project. When you, KITO will come to this particular record, and there's now an approvers related list that's been added. So we're going to have Daniela review your recast request, and if she has any questions, she'll update the state to rejected, put comments, you'll receive a notification. If there's no questions, she understands why, she's going to approve this request. Let's go ahead and save our record. So now we show that the state has been, this field has been updated to approved for KITO, and now the CITO has received a notification requesting review of this recast request. And I'm going to, and we see at the bottom here that Mr. Jeff Maxson has been requested to review this request. And in the same way, if there's additional questions, the state will be rejected and the project manager will get a notification, and you'll work out whatever that clarification that's required with KITO and CITO so that your CITO can go ahead and approve this recast request if appropriate. So now that both KITO and CITO have reviewed and approved, we see that these fields have updated. Once this is updated, we want to go back to our project record, and we need to update either our schedule or our financials. So again, our financials are down here with our cost plan. So that means that we need to open up this cost plan and add costs, or if I had a monetary benefit plan, I would need to update that plan. On the planning console, if I need to shift around the dates, I can either shift them right here in these planned, probably the planned end dates. But the other thing that you can do too is I can start pulling, moving, shifting some of these fields. Okay, and I'm going to move my milestone. So what I've done is I've moved these planned end dates for these tasks. I'm going to save my changes. And if I go to the baseline for my recast, what it's showing me, and I hope that you're doing this on your own because it's much easier to see, but this was the baseline that I took before my recast request was requested. So now you know what the difference was between what was planned, and then this is the dates that you've now been approved to include on your project plan. And you can see that the milestone date has moved over. It was originally over here. This task was originally this duration. Now it's up to here. Same for here. No change for these tasks here. And that's recast. Any questions on recast requests and creating those baselines that go along with it? Okay.
I do have a quick question. So
Yes.
we were, sorry to cut you off there. So we submit the recast request, I guess, and then
Yes.
then that's approved, and then we go back and redo the schedule and
Correct.
cost and all of that. It's not, we don't have to have the schedule and cost as part of the request to
You can
recast.
put that makes perfect sense. Is in this recast request here, you can you know, as part of your justification, you could say, you know, need, you know, more money. I need another, you know, 150 grand and added to cost plan. And, you know, if there's not enough information here for KITO and CITO to make decisions, then this is where you can put in this information. And like, this is a very generic, not very helpful statement, but just say, you know, like phase 1 of project end dates are now, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so now what you're communicating to KITO and CITO is, you know, how much longer your project's going to take. So maybe, or just the overall project's going to take longer. Maybe it's going to take 3 months longer than what you had planned. The costs for some reason, inflation, maybe the materials that you're having to order are now more expensive than what you had planned when you got estimates when you first initiated your project request. So you want to reflect those differences here within your business justification so that it's understood what that change is. And once you get this approval, then yes, you want to change your schedule here. You want to update your financials down here. Does that help? Daniela, is there anything, now this is your process. If I said anything wrong, you know, please correct me.
No. No,
Okay.
nothing incorrect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
That was an excellent question. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. It just, I just want to make sure that I'm entering the right information, you know, into that description, or justification rather, so that, you know, kind of minimize the back and forth. But hopefully just
Absolutely.
never
I
have
mean,
to recast, right? And then we don't have to worry about it.
yeah, if you don't have the recast, then it's you know, not something you have to do. But if you do, again, just enough detail so that you know. I mean, honestly, this record's not operating in a vacuum. You guys are attending meetings, you're having, you know, project reviews, you're having steering group meetings, there's a lot of other things that are happening. And this particular project, it might be very well understood by your leadership that, you know, it's probably going to be behind schedule. So again, putting enough detail in there so that if somebody comes back later, maybe there's an, you know, an audit and say, do we really understand why we have so many recast projects? And is there enough detail in the request change that if somebody doesn't remember why, they can say, oh yeah, it's right here in the business justification. It costs this much more money at this point. The schedule is off, and that's why we recast, and they can go back to those baselines to see how things shifted around. That's why that baseline before you start is really important.
Thank you.
Okay, of course. The delivering and closing there's not any workflow here associated with delivering, but when you click on the deliver button, it's just moving your project from executing to delivering. In this phase, of course, there's probably training, there might be organizational change that you might want to introduce to your organization. You want to review those project tasks and get those completed. You also have a report that you need to submit. I just have to make sure I remember what it's called, your peer report. So within this part of your phase, this is a time for you to get these other administrative pieces done that might be a part of your project. There's this phases and we have states right here. So if you're getting to the point where you're ready to close your project, there's a close button in the upper right, and you want to attach that peer report right here. And you can see it here at the top of our record. And if you're ready to close, you want to update your state to close complete. And if I save that, if all of the project tasks are not closed, so that means they're in a pending or a work in progress state, then you're going to see this particular pop-up that's saying, well, you want to close your project, but not all of your project tasks are closed. We're going to close them for you if you continue. And if you're okay with that, depending on your project, then you click OK, and it's going to close all your tasks. If that's not okay, cancel that out, go back down to these project tasks, follow up with your folks to make sure that all of this gets completed. And then when you're ready to close your project, then go ahead and close it. And you're done. All right, I'm sorry I went 1 minute over, Daniela, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to take away any questions, and I will come back with a question on Excel import of project tasks into the planning console and get back to Daniela on that one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Teresa.
Of course.
The admin team is needing to apply a patch, so I need everyone to log out of your training instances at this point. And you'll be able to log back on later if you'd like to practice, but they have to do a little bit of admin work. So I'll be sending out the slide deck and the meeting recording shortly after this meeting, as soon as I get that meeting recording uploaded. Before we adjourn, are there any further questions? All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Teresa. Thank you so much.
You're very
and
welcome.
we are here for you if you have any questions. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.